How Roger Federer became the face of Rolex. It's difficult to consider Rolex without thinking of Roger Federer. The tennis icon has been a Rolex testimony for almost 20 years. He is currently retired. In most of his championship victory ceremonies throughout his brilliant career, Federer wore a Rolex watch, and the watch brand still often uses him in ads and commercials. Few brand advocates are as in tune with their company as Roger Federer is with Rolex. Many of the ideals and traits the athlete possessed and continues to possess corresponded naturally with the image Rolex aimed to uphold when he was chosen as an official testimony in 2006. Grace, refinement, and elegance. Federer's character began to be associated with all of these attributes. This compatibility between the brand and the human being explains why the Swiss timepieces kept their national ambassador in place even after they retired. Because a Roger Federer endorsement may be just as expensive as a Rolex co-sign. However, things weren't always like this. Even if it's hard to imagine now, Federer wasn't always a good fit for the Rolex testimony position, a moment when you would least expect to link the man with that elegant, exalted demeanor. He was replaced with a more erratic and impetuous young player. This is the story of Roger Federer's transformation from non-finalist to brand ambassador. Typically, when we think of Roger Federer today, we picture a composed, eminent tennis maestro. This is because of his early career attitudes. That wasn't always the case, though. When Federer first started his career, he was notoriously erratic and prone to tantrums and outbursts when he was angry. He frequently broke his customary routine of smashing rackets and cursing during games to vent his emotions, more precisely, the fury he felt toward himself. These angry outbursts came from his frustrations with himself rather than being directed at a rival player or being motivated by ego. Even though he knew he had the potential, the idea that he was not the player he wanted to be tormented him. Federer was set on winning right from the start. His goal has always been to become the world's best tennis player. It was his commitment that made him unique. Swiss players were not usually regarded to be great then. They were urged to have modesty and to have a realistic, that is, mediocre vision for their careers. Federer disapproved of this mindset. He had an image of himself as the world's best tennis player. Whatever modest concept he may have had about tennis was superseded by a mission to become the greatest of all time. Rolex found this mindset to be problematic. Its optics suggested otherwise, even though Federer's displeasure was a reflection of his motivation and desire to win. Federer appeared to be nothing more than a spoiled brat from the outside looking in. The elegance and accuracy that are key to the Rolex brand narrative were not reflected in this image. Even now, Rolex places such a high value on Federer's demeanor and attitude that they write, quote, "Federer was, by his own account, a highly irritable and sometimes bad-tempered athlete when he was ranked in the top 100 players early in his career. He decided to become his own best friend, in his own words. The winner therefore gained the ability to control pressure and have the highest regard for the game. There is, of course, the aesthetic component of having a brand's face in addition to symbolic linkage. At the moment, Federer's appearance did not align with that of a Rolex ambassador. Although Federer is recognized today for his dapper and conventionally sharp looks, he had a far more bohemian appearance in the early 2000s. The long hair gave a laid-back vibe to it that didn't reflect the refinement required of a Rolex spokesperson, even though I believe he looked great. Roger's development, both personal and public. As far as we now know, the young player did not remain erratic or impetuous. Rather, he went on to become the embodiment of honor and grace in sports. Federer realized he needed to have self-control if he wanted to be the best player, as the previous Rolex quotation implies. He needed to play and behave in a way that was composed and in control. That to accomplish his goals, he needed to, in his own words, become his own best friend. An athlete required this shift in thinking exactly. The Swiss player's newfound perspective on life and tennis helped him win his first Grand Slam championship at Wimbledon in 2003. The years that followed were among the greatest in tennis history. Federer understood the importance of appearances in addition to his own need for transformation. The importance of managing how he is perceived by others. My interpretation of this is that Federer desired agency and control over how other people saw him, not that he gave in to outside PR pressure. Federer took on the role of image architect. One of the reasons he has become one of the most iconic individuals in sports history is the degree of control and maintenance he has shown not only over his tennis career but also over the development of his personal story and public persona. 2004, Federer's biggest year ever. Federer won 3 of the 4 majors in a single tennis calendar year for the first time this year. Federer made history by becoming the first man to win 3 of the 4 Grand Slam tournaments in a single year since 1988. He was thought to be the game's singularly dominant player during this time. The world's greatest tennis player without any serious competitors. His technique was elegant, precise, and poised in his playing. It appeared as though he took cues from all of the greatest players in history while also managing to produce something wholly original and unheard of. As his career progressed and his public persona began to take on the characteristics of the man we know today, it became obvious that Roger and Maurice Lacroix should be endorsed. And now for Maurice Lacroix. The news of Federer and Maurice Lacroix's 5-year cooperation agreement broke in June 2004. Federer signed a deal committing him to represent the business as an ambassador and feature in public relations, point-of-sale materials, and advertising. Rolex would have been quite interested in the tennis player at this point. Although Federer had worn Rolex watches as a personal endorsement in the early 2000s, the luxury watchmaker never went as far as to officially name the tennis player as a testimony. All in all, at the moment he wasn't the appropriate fit for the brand. However, right now, it was no longer only the world's greatest player. He had also changed as a person. A guy who as a testimony and as a person personified everything that the Rolex brand holds so dear. However, the watch company was unable to make it happen for various reasons. However, they were not about to give up so lightly. In 2006, 2 years later, an unprecedented event occurred. Rolex and Roger. 2 years into a 5-year contract, Federer reportedly ended his association with Maurice Lacroix, and he signed with Rolex practically immediately after. Federer reportedly paid an undisclosed sum as a breakup fee to end his partnership with Maurice Lacroix. It was replaced with a brand new $15 million, 10-year Rolex cooperation agreement, which officially launched the current Roger x Rolex era. The tennis icon went on to become the brand's spokesperson, accepting trophies at the French Open, several US Opens, Wimbledon competitions, and multiple Australian Opens while sporting a Rolex watch. After his initial 10-year contract expired in 2016, he inked a new $8 million yearly contract with the watchmaker. Even after retirement, the agreement is still in effect today and has no expiration date. A wide range of youthful talents visible on the current list of Rolex testimonies, from Jannik Sinner and Coco Gauff to Carlos Alcaraz and Iga Swiatek. As noted by Rolex chief executive Jean-Frédéric Dufour at last year's Watches and Wonders show, the firm is aiming to attract the next generation of luxury watch buyers. It is very important that once a year we showcase that wearing a watch is trendy and even something for the youngest generation which is not used to wearing watches. Another possible explanation for Rolex's aggressive investment in so much young talent is that, unlike Roger, the company now recognizes the value of giving up-and-coming players a chance, to provide them with a chance to develop together with the brand. As they did with Roger to Maurice Lacroix in 2004, it might not be worth it to run the risk of losing a player with tremendous talent and potential to a competing brand. In summary, even with so many young athletes supporting Rolex these days in tennis as well as other sports, Roger Federer continues to be the quintessential testimony. In everything he does, his grace, sincerity, and elegance are evident. It's not as simple as it sounds to follow his path to become a testimony, but that complexity enhances the story. Honors bestowed upon this exceptional athlete and sports hero weren't given to him. He was under their employ at that time. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon to stay updated with our latest content. See you in the next video.